Howdy. This is the Views from the Schott podcast live for the first time ever. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller. And today it is college basketball eve. It is Sunday, November 3rd, 2024. And I wish you a very, very, very happy Give Someone a Dollar Day. Today's exclusive presenting partner of live Views from the Schott podcast is CBB Analytics. You can go to cbbanalytics.com right now, sign up for a free account, and get access to some of the stats that programs like the Ohio State University men's and women's basketball team have to get prepped, scout, self-scout, and create game plans for upcoming opponents. And you can even sign up for a paid version as well to get access to all the stats that those programs have access to. So today's show, it's the first live one ever. Welcome in. Thanks for being here. And if you're listening on podcast and you're a little late, that's fine. Just next time, make the live show. So here's the goal. We're going to do what we always do, and that is preview a basketball game. This is going to be a normal Texas preview show. If you've been here before, thanks for being back. If you're new, I welcome you. It's going to be a fun year for Ohio State basketball. We're going to preview Texas. We're going to take a unique look at the game. We're going to look at key matchups, keys to the game. Banger bets are back, folks. They are back, and they are better than ever. So we'll talk banger bets before giving a prediction to the Texas and Ohio State game that will tip off tomorrow night at 10 p.m. You know, the two best games tomorrow are Ohio State and Texas. That game tips off at 10 p.m. Eastern. Gonzaga and Baylor is probably the best game on the slate tomorrow night, and we will watch that at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. We need to find these marketing folks and these scheduling folks in college basketball and hire them to do great things because clearly they know how to grow the game. So thank you for that, NCAA, and whoever else may take part in scheduling. So would encourage you to subscribe. That would be great. Helps out the show. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube. And, of course, follow on the socials. On Instagram, on Twitter, you can find us at The Schott Pod. You can even find us on Facebook as well. All right. So I'm going to assume with a show like this, there may be some who are really, really hardcore Ohio State football fans, and that's fine. Ohio State basketball may be a secondary, some would even say a tertiary fandom for some. That's okay. So to start today's show, if you're new, let's just recap. Where has Ohio State basketball been over the past several months? Well, we know that last season, although it didn't go well, it ended strongly, and Jake Diebler is the new head coach for the Ohio State University men's basketball team. So Coach Diebler goes 8-3 during his time as interim head coach for Ohio State. That is good enough to give him the nod as now the official, permanent, hopefully, head coach for Ohio State. He knocks off Purdue in a huge upset at the Schott in his first ever game as head coach for Ohio State. Dale Bonner hits a buzzer beater at Michigan State, giving the Buckeyes another big win during that Jake Diebler tenure. Pick up 2 wins in the NIT tournament before falling to Georgia to end the season. So you go 8-3 after a dauntingly bad final 2 years under Chris Holtmann. Buckeyes start to gain some momentum. Jake Diebler is a head coach who wants to play fast. He said it all offseason. This is not going to be a team that plays that traditional Big Ten type of basketball. They're going to play fast. Their pace under Chris Holtmann last season was 64.8. That was 17th percentile in all of college basketball. So they're a slow, slugging Big Ten team like we're used to seeing in the Big Ten Conference. Under Jake Diebler, their pace jumps up to 68.8, which would be 78th percentile in college basketball last season. So you see a huge jump there under Jake Diebler, and this is a brand new coaching staff. It's not just Jake Diebler. Every single coach on staff is brand new, other than Dave Dickerson, who comes back in after being at Ohio State with Thad Matta. He's now back with Ohio State under Jake Diebler. Key contributors, most of them are gone. Bruce Thornton returns. Outside of that, Roddy Gale, Felix Okpara, Zed Key, Scotty Middleton, Bowen Hardman, all of those players transfer out. Dale Bonner, no more eligibility. Wish him the best of luck. He's playing somewhere overseas. I don't remember where. Jamison Battle's kicking it in Toronto right now with the Raptors. He's gone as well. And Owen Spencer, wish him the best of luck. maybe in a career in finance. Who knows? Ohio State returns 34% of its minutes from last season. That's mostly Bruce Thornton. I believe that number probably includes Tayson Chapman as well, who's out for the year with an ACL tear, and Evan Mahaffey, who started 34-ish games last season. Those minutes return as well. So it's essentially Bruce Thornton and Evan Mahaffey. Tayson Chapman is back. Devin Royal gets some minutes there as well, but Tayson Chapman out for the year, and Bruce Thornton, the only major contributor who's returning to the team. So that begs the question, what does this new roster look like? Well, you've got two former five-star players who were also former McDonald's All-American players in Aaron Bradshaw and in Sean Stewart. Both of those players are going to start on Monday night. You'll see Sean Stewart at the 4. You'll see Aaron Bradshaw at the 5. Michi Johnson, you may remember the name. That big buzzer beater he hit against Seton Hall, I think, very early on in his first full year there at Ohio State. He has since gone on to South Carolina. He's grown up. He's won all SEC second team last year, led the Gamecocks in scoring with 14 points per game. And South Carolina won 26 games. It's their most wins in a season since, I think, 2016. Michi Johnson, a lot of experience, a lot of scoring now with the Buckeyes. Micah Parrish, he's had a couple stops in his career. In college at Oakland, he was a 2-time member of the Horizon League all-defensive team. He goes to San Diego State. 76 total games played there. Of course, 2 years ago, San Diego State, the national runner-up, making it to the national title game and losing to UConn. He started 37 games with San Diego State. Quez Glover, a name that not many people know right now. They will know him. From Florida to Samford to Kansas State, where he didn't play a game due to a knee injury, and now to Ohio State. He's a 1,000-point scorer. He was 99th percentile in points per 40 minutes 2 seasons ago in his last full season in college basketball. And then there's freshman Junie Mobley. So you got 5 transfers. You've got 3 freshmen coming in. Most notably is Junie Mobley. He's a top 50 freshman in the nation. He was named the sniper in the 2024 class superlatives by 247 Sports. And I can confirm he's already the best shooter on the team. So expect a lot from him. So not only did Jake Diebler have to put together a brand new roster, a brand new coaching staff, and a brand new program, essentially, but so did Rodney Terry over at Texas. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is Ohio State's matchup with Texas. So if you're wondering, where should Ohio State be this season? Again, if you're new, if you've missed some content, I predicted Ohio State's full record. I predicted them to go to the NCAA tournament this year in the last show. Expect them to be an 8 seed. So this should be a team. It's going to have plenty of opportunities to win some big-time games in Columbus and elsewhere, many games outside of Columbus where they've got some big neutral site and just straight-up away games for the Buckeyes this year in the non-conference. Expectations are really, really high for Ohio State, and they should be. And Jake Diebler is not bowing out of that. He wants the expectations to be high. He's communicating that to his team as well. And the Buckeyes have got a huge matchup coming up against the Longhorns on Monday night. 10 p.m. Eastern tip-off is what we're scheduled for right now. And this is the second biggest game of the college basketball season coming up to tip off on Monday. It's Gonzaga and Baylor, and then it's Ohio State and Texas. So Ohio State is unranked. Texas is ranked in the AP somewhere around the 19 spot. We don't really care about the AP. What we do care about are analytically. So let's get into Texas right now. So they're ranked 18th in Ken Pom right now and 11th in Bart Torvik right now. So they're considered pretty easily a top 20 team in the nation. Last year, they go 21-13 in the first full year under Rodney Terry, 9-9 in the Big 12, and they lost to Tennessee in the second round of the NCAA tournament. And let's talk about the team. The fact of the matter is, this is college basketball. The state of college basketball is we don't really know a lot about teams heading into the first game of the year because of the transfer portal, because there's so much turnover on rosters all across college basketball. But what we do know about Texas is this. Their top 5 scorers from last season are gone. They had some NBA players on that team, some players who would be very, very good in street ball, which helps. And their top 5 scorers gone from last season. Last year, they had a 112.3 offensive rating. That's really, really good. 75 points per game. you will absolutely take that as well. And they were phenomenal when it comes to shooting metrics, 47% from the field, 36% from the three-point line, and 76% from the free throw line. That's really, really good. So overall, this was a good shooting team offensively. Now let's talk about this year. They've got some strengths. And number one, I'd say their major strength is they've got a lot of options. Now that could be a weakness too. We'll talk about that here in a second, but they've got a lot of options when it comes to who's going to score, who's going to lead this team on Monday night against Ohio State. You look at Arthur Kaluma, he can't be your number one. He probably shouldn't be. And if he is your number one, you're going to have some issues at Texas this year. But he's had some time at Creighton. He's had some time at Kansas State where I think his play has been maybe erratic at times. That's how maybe he'd be described. But he can score. Trey Johnson, he could be the best pure scorer in the entire nation when it comes to freshmen this year. Texas fans really excited about what he can bring to the Longhorns. Jordan Pope, he can hit shots from deep. And then you've got Tremont Mark coming in from Arkansas, who another player who kind of had an up and down, topsy-turvy type of season at Arkansas last year. Now he's at Texas, and you've got a lot of skill. You got a lot of guys who can score here for Texas. So I think that's a huge question mark for them, is who's going to score. But the good thing for them is that they've got a bunch of guys who you can expect to pour it in, which means Ohio State's going to have to focus on a lot of players coming up here on Monday. Offensively, when it comes to weaknesses, shot quality, I think, is something that they would recognize as being a bit of a downfall last year at times. While they did shoot really, really well from the field and from the three-point line, they had guys who could just go get buckets for them, essentially. You look at the first half against Tennessee in the NCAA tournament, they maybe lose that game because shot quality and not being able to get good looks was a huge issue for them last year. They got the benefit of two of the purer scorers in the game last year as well. And I think that could be a concern for Texas this year, is if you don't get the type of play you need out of a Tremont Mark, a Jordan Pope, a Trey Johnson, players like that, and you really have to scheme guys open, well, then you're looking at what Ohio State has looked like in the past couple years, where a lot of cold stretches, a lot of dry runs, a lot of balls sticking on the floor, and you need more motion, you need more movement. That can be very, very frustrating. So I think that's something that we could see on Monday. We'll see. And they also have not been a team traditionally, at least last year, where they got a lot of paint production. Only 41% of their points last year came to paint. I'm not sure that they really did much this offseason to rectify that. That's going to be something to keep an eye on as well. And individually, again, the question is, who is your star? You've got a lot of good pieces, but you look up and down this roster, it could be Tremont Mark, who's got some playing time under his belt from Arkansas. It could be Trey Johnson, who comes in, and again, he could be one of the best scorers in his freshman class this year. I hope, if you're Texas, you hope it doesn't have to be Arthur Kaluma. Maybe he's your fourth best option at best. Maybe he's your fifth best. But that's going to be the question tomorrow night. Who's going to lead this team in scoring? And I think you're going to have a lot of different options who could lead the team in scoring in this upcoming year, game by game. Now, defensively, when it comes to Texas, how can Ohio State match up with the Longhorns? First of all, they're a good defensive team. They've traditionally been a good defensive team under Rodney Terry. They only they allowed less than 68 points per game last season. They had a 97.7 defensive rating. That's pretty good as well. This should be a really, really good team defensively again this year. I think that especially at the guard level, they've got some guys who can sit down, slap the floor, and defend, and they force turnovers like none other. Last year, 80th percentile in turnover rate forced. The year before that, they were 95th percentile. I get that's Rodney Terry. Wasn't a full year as head coach there at Texas with Chris Beard being there, but still 95th percentile and 80th percentile in turnover rate. That's going to be something that Bruce Thornton, Michi Johnson, Junie Mobley, Quez Glover, Micah Parrish, they're going to have to deal with that coming up here on Monday night. You look at Kendall Weaver, you look at Larry, really, really good on-ball defenders. So it's going to be something where these Ohio State guards are going to have to be able to adjust. They're going to have to be able to take the heat, and they're going to have to take care of the basketball, of course. Last year, weaknesses defensively for Texas. They didn't necessarily rebound the ball all that great. At a 71% defensive rebounding rate, that's really not great. And that's where you look at Sean Stewart specifically. Can he take advantage? Devin Royal, he was a pretty good offensive rebounder last year at times for Ohio State. Really, really good contributor when it comes to second chance points. So that's going to be a spot where I think Ohio State may be looking. Again, you're taking stats from last season and you're kind of combining that with the way that these rosters are built this season. I think those are some things to keep an eye on. So, as we're keeping an eye on things, we're going to talk keys to the game. Before we get into keys to the game, going to shout out College Basketball Analytics. Again, CBB Analytics is the exclusive presenting partner of the Views from the Schott podcast for this entire season. So you're going to hear all about CBB Analytics. I use CBB Analytics for every single show for prep, whether it be a review game, whether it be a preview game, it doesn't matter. CBB Analytics has access to the best stats and analytics that you can find. So if you're looking through percentiles, if you're looking to build charts, if you're looking to look at player box scores and on-off combinations, who's the best lineup for a team, whether it be Texas or Ohio State or otherwise, you can do that all on CBB Analytics. Encourage you to go to cbbanalytics.com right now as you're watching, or later on if you're listening, that's fine too, or watching later. Go there, sign up for a free account if you haven't already. At least get a taste for it, and then go from there. All right, we got keys to the game, and I got to take a sip, so let's pause. That's some good bubbly. So keys to the game. I got two for you here for Ohio State. I think Ohio State has got two areas in this game where if they do it well, if you can check these boxes, they're going to win. And this is exactly how we built the show over the past few years is if Ohio State can do two of these things or three of these things. I don't think I really ever came out with four keys to the game, but it's usually 2 to 3. And when Ohio State does that, they tend to put themselves in a chance to win a game. When they don't, the game can get away from you quickly. We saw that last year with Chris Holtmann. So I'd keep an eye on these two things as you're watching the game on Monday night. Number one, Ohio State needs to win in the front court. Right now, Texas, I think their true front court player who they can believe in is Caden Shedrick. Outside of that, depth is a big time question for them. And they've got a couple freshmen who come in. They can soak in some minutes. I don't know if those are guys who you necessarily want to be playing a lot of minutes, especially against guys like Sean Stewart, Aaron Bradshaw. Devin Royal has a year of experience under his belt now, and maybe even look to a guy like Ivan Nigavon. I don't know how much run he'll get in his first game with Ohio State. The Buckeyes probably don't want him to get all that much run, but regardless, this is a weaker part of Texas when it comes to their roster construction. Now, here's the thing. You're looking at Sean Stewart and Aaron Bradshaw as two guys where if they can reach their potential or if they can get close to their potential, Ohio State is incrementally better with those guys hopefully playing like their expectation as former 5-star players rather than up and down inconsistent last year at Duke for Sean Stewart and Kentucky for Aaron Bradshaw. We have talked at length about the potential that these two players have and also the issues defensively, especially with Aaron Bradshaw. The foul trouble that he got into last year was disgusting. You can go watch the front court preview or listen to it if you missed it. Have a barf bag handy because his foul numbers were really, really bad last year at times, even in limited playing time. So this is a great opportunity for these two players to step up, wear the scarlet and gray, and play really, really well for Ohio State. There's opportunity here. This is a perfect matchup for those two. If Sean Stewart, if Aaron Bradshaw play well, if you win the front court and those matchups there, you've got a really, really good shot to win this game. The second key to the game, you've got to defend, and you've got to defend to win. Right now, even with the question marks around Texas's offensive identity, the matchup analytically is going to favor Texas's offense over Ohio State's defense to more. It's more of a margin in that matchup than any other matchup in this game. Ken Pom right now is projecting Ohio State to be 39th in adjusted defensive efficiency this season. Bart Torvik says way worse, 64th in adjusted defensive efficiency. I can tell you from conversations I've had, from things that have already been out there and published, defense is a bit of a concern, I think, for Ohio State basketball right now, especially in the front court. You've got Aaron Bradshaw, foul trouble. Devin Royal, foul trouble. Evan Mahaffey, foul trouble. Can those guys step up? And then at guard, I think that you feel comfortable with Bruce Thornton. I think you feel comfortable with Micah Parrish. But when it comes to Michi Johnson, when it comes to Judy Mobley, especially, Judy Mobley is a work in progress. He's a work in progress defensively. Offensively, I think Ohio State feels really good about where he's at. But Quez Glover, another player as well, where you got to wonder about how are these guards going to play in a big time matchup against good guards against Texas. So they're going to have to sit down. They're going to have to defend in this one to win, because that's the matchup right now that is most advantageous to Kentucky, not Kentucky. Good Lord, where did that come from? Most advantageous to Texas. I don't even have a Kentucky here on my notes, I don't believe. So Ohio State is going to have to sit down and defend. Front court, back court, doesn't matter. They are going to have to try to shorten that gap between the Texas offense and the Ohio State defense. Okay. So we've got banger bets. Banger bets are something that we enjoyed last year. We enjoyed them more when we had player props, because that's where we could, do some alternate lines with player points and stuff like that. And we could cash out a little bit. Now this year, as of looking earlier today, you have spread, money line, and total. That's it. If you want to first half total in there, if you want to first half spread, that's cool too. You can take that on FanDuel, but I'm not even seeing team totals, not even alternate team totals, alternate team totals, none of that, and no player props in the state of Ohio. So the banger bets this year, while I'll give you a lean, I don't know how often I'm going to have a true banger bet for you. So that said, tonight in this one, I do not have a banger bet for you. If you're looking at player props, if you're in a state where you can bet on player props, I'd be looking at Sean Stewart or Aaron Bradshaw, their points. Either one of those players I expect maybe can overperform. Maybe Bruce Thornton, maybe Michi Johnson can go. It feels pretty safe at this point to take Bruce Thornton over 15 points because he does it so often. But I'd really be looking at the matchup advantages for Sean Stewart and Aaron Bradshaw in this one. I have a couple leans that I can give you. I'm working on building a bit of I'm not going to call it an algorithm or a formula or anything like that, but just some calculations from a few different sources that I've got, kind of putting them together and seeing where we can find value. I got no value. Texas money line would be my only true lean in this one. Texas right now, there's no value. They're at minus 156, minus 155, something like that on FanDuel and DraftKings as of the last time I checked. For a fair price on Texas, you need to be at minus 141 or better. And then on the Ohio State money line, they would have to be at least plus 143, and that is not available either. And I'm not touching the total. In terms of the formulas that I've used, and I put this together before the lines came out, I projected 145 to 147 total points in this game. The line is at 146.5 from what I've seen. So I think Vegas nailed it. So I would recommend to you, this game is at 10 o'clock on a Monday night. Let's just order some pizza, some wings, not lose any money, and just watch the game. I've got the only lean that I would really lean maybe would be a money line bet. There's no value there, though, so I'm not touching it. All right. Let's get into a prediction here. So I've set the scene for how Ohio State can win this game. Ohio State opened up as a 2.5 point underdog, according to DraftKings. I've seen this number at 2.5 points or 3 points, where Texas has been favored ever since the lines began to come out. So here's the thing for Ohio State. Number one, again, I think the guard pressure that is going to be put on Michi Johnson, it's going to be put on Bruce Thornton, it's going to be put on Micah Parrish, Quez Glover, and Judy Mobley, those type of guys, they're going to have to deal with some pretty intense ball pressure. Texas likes to ratchet it up, and they like to force turnovers. I think Ohio State is much more equipped to deal with that this season than the past couple years. I'm sorry. Evan Mahaffey has a lot of good parts to his game. I don't want him bringing the ball up the floor as a point forward. I'm out on that. I've seen the turnovers. I've seen him dribble the ball off his shin too many times for me to be into that. But they still have, with the addition of Michi Johnson, with the addition especially of Quez Glover, maybe Judy Mobley, they've got some more primary ball handlers on the team this year where they should be better equipped to deal with the pressure. On the flip side, you're going to need Michi Johnson. You're going to need Judy Mobley to be able to defend these guards. This is a good guard team. It's a good team overall. You've got to sit down and defend. I know that Junie Mobley, where he's at right now, is not where they would like him to be when it comes to his defensive effort, maybe not effort, his defensive production and the trust that they have in him. So that's going to be something that you're going to have to look at as well. Sean Stewart, Aaron Bradshaw. I think the game comes down to them. If they can eat in the front court, if they can produce for the Buckeyes and really force Texas to feel uncomfortable, they can run up and down the floor. And I think especially because of the lack of depth that Texas has in the front court, you can feel really, really good about where Ohio State could be with Sean Stewart and Aaron Bradshaw. What are they going to be? That's the question for those two. Are they going to be breakout players for the Buckeyes, or are they going to be ho-hum, up and down, inconsistent like they were last year? If they can step up and play well, I think Ohio State can win this game. I'm really concerned about Ohio State's ability to defend. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it in the past couple years. Even under Jake Diebler, there were spurts of good play, and you started to finally see this team play well offensively and play well defensively at the same time, which you rarely, if ever, saw under Chris Holtmann over those final couple of years where he was leading Ohio State. I still haven't seen it yet to where I can feel uber confident. And I think Texas offensively is just going to be too good in this game. It's constantly been an area of improvement for the Buckeyes. Even in the past month where practice has opened up, I think Ohio State is going to struggle defensively, and I think that that's going to give Texas the edge. Now, I'm picking Texas to win this game 74-70. I think it's going to be close. It feels like one of those types of games where Texas goes on a run. Maybe they're up by 10. Ohio State cuts it down to 4. And it's one of those frustrating games where you're in it the entire way, but you just can't take the game away from Texas. And I see Ohio State maybe getting into some fouls trouble down the stretch. And as they're fouling, Texas is able to hit a couple of free throws. And that essentially eases the game away from Ohio State, and Texas starts the year 1-0. Of course, I hope that I'm incorrect, but I give Texas a slight lean in this one. I am not putting money on this game. I'm not taking them to cover. You shouldn't listen to this prediction as any rhyme or reason to put money on this game. I lean Texas, and I'm not touching the spread because I could literally see Texas winning this game by 1, by 2 points. It's not worth it. If you want to put money on it, if you feel good about it, I would be taking Texas money line. That's the only slight lean I have, and the value isn't there, so I'm not putting money on this game. But I've got Texas winning this game by 4. Even with the hope Ohio State has, it shouldn't be a discouragement if Ohio State loses this game because there's still so much to play for. Even if you do lose to Texas, if you lose to Texas A&M, maybe you drop one to Kentucky or you drop one to Pitt, which should be a good team this year. You go into Big Ten play, and you're going to go play Michigan State, and then you go play Minnesota. And then after that, you play Oregon, you play Wisconsin, you play Purdue, you play Indiana. Those are the first Big Ten games of January. Ohio State's going to have plenty of time to get the ship righted if need be early on, because I think that there could be some growing pains. There could be some issues with meshing and things like that with Ohio State early on. Hopefully I'm wrong. It's a concern that I have about this team. I've talked about it all offseason and throughout the season preview series as well. So I've got Ohio State taking a loss in the first game of the year, unfortunately, but I think it's going to be a good game, and it's going to be so good to have college basketball back in general. Christmas commercials have already begun, which means that college basketball season is right around the corner. So it's 7:30 Eastern on a Sunday night. We are still more than 24 hours away from Ohio State tipping off, because that makes sense. It does. Who doesn't want to stay up for an opening season game, 10 o'clock for one team, 9 o'clock for another team? It makes perfect sense. We will be here to continue to cover the Ohio State University men's basketball team. This is the only Ohio State basketball exclusive, regularly scheduled podcast that is publishing Ohio State basketball content at least once a week, every single week of the year. Even in the off season, we're covering recruiting, we're covering the portal, and everything else that is going on. So appreciate you watching or listening today. If you were here for the live show, awesome. Thank you. Please tell a friend about the show and subscribe. We'll be back Monday night. Just be advised, Monday night we're going live again. After this game is over, 15, 20 minutes after, once we're prepped, everyone may be going to sleep, and that's fine. But if you feel like staying up and you're excited about the game, we'll be here and we'll be live to react to the show as again and rip to our sleep schedules. And that's okay. So thanks for watching today. I'm going to shut up before you shut me off. Looking forward to watching the Buckeyes tomorrow. Hopefully chatting with you as well as we go through it. Again, I will shut up before you shut me off. Go Bucks.